We're going. We are suddenly live, dude. You left there since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, dramatically different, huh?
I appreciate it, man. You got that whole mature statesman look going on at this point in time.
All right, thank you.
It's impressive. The jacket looks sharp too.
All right, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I just got to get cleaned up for round 3 of this political sideshow, you know?
Well, so, that's a great thing to talk about. Hang on one sec. All right.
Sure.
Round 3, you're saying. Let's talk about round 1. Tell everybody people who don't know the backstory exactly what happened.
You talking about my campaigns or this trial situation?
I'm talking about the trial situation, but you know what? Let's give people a little bit of background. So the first time I met you, I think it was at the 2018 California convention.
Yes.
And you were a candidate for governor.
Correct.
In the state of California. And for people who don't know, California is the most expensive media market in the world. And obviously, people know it's the largest state in terms of population, but they don't realize just how big California is. And I don't think people understand the effect that Proposition 14 has had on elections in California. So why don't we start there? California doesn't have a traditional primary like most people are thinking of, right?
No, it doesn't. We have what's called a jungle primary. So basically the top 2 contenders, the top 2 vote getters during the primary are able to contend through to the general election. So whether you're a Republican or Democrat or a Libertarian or whatever the case may be, the 2 candidates that get the most votes in the primary are the only ones that proceed to the general election. So it's kind of crazy because we've already had competitions, such as with the senator race for Kamala Harris's seat, that she ended up winning. She faced another Democrat for that position. Just recently, Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi, she was up against another Democrat in her district. So,
that's an interesting thing because I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was governor at the time, when he put through Proposition 14.
Right.
And one of the arguments that he made is actually that if you have a general election with 2 Democrats in it, that's actually a good thing because it means the more moderate Democrat is more likely to win.
Oh, my God.
Agree with that?
Not at all. Because
What? A partisan Republican governor might be twisting things to his own truth. What's going on here?
Well, you have a lot of Californians that consider themselves to be progressive, that want to see a transition from fossil fuel energies to renewable energies, a reduction of capitalism and a focus more so on poverty and individual rights. So it's sad because, I apologize. I got thrown off there by that comment.
No problem. It's a really good, but I just want to go back on that a little bit more.
That's what I was about to say. I apologize. So a lot of Californians consider themselves progressive, and this Batar guy, he was running up against Nancy Pelosi in her district, and he's considered more of a progressive than she is, definitely, just by looking at some of his policies. He's a democratic socialist to the heart. But he was outvoted by the longtime establishment, that continues to control our political system. So here in California, we pretty much just have a one-party rule system.
So it's an interesting thing because I do want to go through that a little bit more. There are some people who argue that it might also benefit third parties sometimes because you might get a scenario where 2 Democrats or this is probably about to happen in this governor's race, right? My understanding is that there's 87 Democrats running for governor. Now, most of them aren't mainstream, but that they're going to split the Democratic vote somewhat. Does that in any way benefit a third party candidate?
Not at all. Well, the big problem is you're still facing the political machine that has been dominating politics this entire time. So I don't believe that any Democrat is going to be, thank you. I don't think any Democrat is going to be able to challenge Gavin Newsom for the Democratic Party nomination. So they're going to funnel their focus and money and efforts into his campaign to make sure that he can continue to remain as governor. So it's really up to everybody else to kind of have that opportunity to compete against them, but it's all about big money. So, you know, on the right, you got some notable Republicans like Kevin Faulconer, who was the former mayor of San Diego, and John Cox, who ran against Gavin Newsom in the last gubernatorial election. They are pretty much throwing their hat in the ring again. So we'll see what happens with them. But, you know, between the right and the left, you got millions, tens of millions of dollars being poured into this recall election. So the little guy, the third party candidates, they usually don't have that amount of money to compete with, never do. So it's about garnering attention. And we unfortunately have realized by now it's just a big popularity contest.
Right.
So if we aren't able to have the opportunity to be seen and heard by more people, then we're going to lose hands down every time.
So it's interesting what people had hoped, you know, Proposition 14, jungle primary. I don't really like the name jungle primary, quite frankly, because why is it a jungle? It makes no sense. But
because it's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy. You could call it a crazy primary. That would make more sense, the crazy primary system. But it hasn't been the panacea that California voters thought it would be, because I think it was at least sold with the idea that if you got two Democrats running, the one who could get the most Republican votes and therefore was the most moderate had a better chance of winning. But it hasn't turned out like that at all.
No way at all. If anything, because you have some hardliners when it comes to political idealism, they don't participate in the elections, you know.
Interesting.
With those Democrat versus Democrat races, or even when it's Democrat versus Libertarian,
right?
Encourage Republicans to get off their asses. Pardon me, you probably bleep that, but
no, that's fine.
Get off their butts.
You can swear all you want. We don't want the government censoring us.
Exactly.
I mean, well, I might pull out the shaft. Shut your mouth. But
you're right. Just hit a button. But you would think just strategically for the Republican Party or any Republican voter, if you're sick of any Democrat that's running your district or your area, your community, your neighborhood, then get them out of office. Vote for the Libertarian, vote for the Independent, vote for the other guy, anybody other than somebody else that's been there, you know, for 10, 20, 15, you know, years or whatever the case may be, because they've already proven that they're incapable of changing the situation, the circumstances. So try something different. But
I love that idea. I have to plug an idea that, you know, maybe it'll come to pass someday. Friend of mine, Matt McLaughlin, is a political commentator in Boston, said he wanted to start an anti-incumbent party and no politics.
Exactly.
And they only want 10% of the electorate. That's it. They don't want more people. And the rule is you just don't vote for the incumbent, no matter what. And that way, it's not really a ballot control because, you know, if you're super popular, you usually win by more than 10% if the people love you. On the other hand, a lot of elections are really close. And so it's sort of an interesting term limit thing. All right. So I met you, you're running in 2018, you're running for governor, and you end up not being the only Libertarian on the ballot because of this jungle primary system, right?
No, that is not true.
That is not true.
Politics that created that circumstance. And basically there was some pushing on the floor during the convention to change the rules to endorse two candidates for governor. Now, traditionally, of course, there has always been an endorsement for just one candidate for any, you know, position that they're seeking. Just so, of course, there's, you know, no argument and it's a competition. So the person that's seeking the endorsement, only one person is able to receive that, or else you might as well just give it to everybody. You know, I have this.
As I recall, there were 300 people at the convention who could have endorsed them all.
Exactly. You know, So that's precisely what happened. Unfortunately, I believe there was a lot of prejudice behind that choice, whether it be based on the color of my skin or the amount of money that I was able to fundraise as a candidate. But it definitely played into that role because I unanimously got the endorsement from the Libertarian Party. However, this other candidate, it was kind of split. So had the focus just been on me as a candidate, there's a possibility I probably would have gotten a lot further as a candidate, but
Yeah.
I was endorsed by the Libertarian Party and got about 12,000 votes in that 2018 election. So this
Which
time,
is a great thing to build on, right? So now you are at least known as a political activist.
exactly.
You're out doing political activist things, which then leads us to tell us the story of your first court case.
Right. Well, I live by the principle of liberty. It's to me, it's not just a topic to be discussed in a social club or online or whatever the case may be. We have to live by that principle if we consider ourselves to be free people living in a free country.
Yeah,
And
you are a model of that all the time.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well, the inspiration from that model came from Ron Paul, during his 2008 campaign for president. I learned about him as a Democrat, and he basically shifted me away from being a longtime Democrat to actually voting Libertarian. So I thank him for that. But as I learned more about libertarianism, I'm like, hey, if we live under a government that's being dictatorial and, we have rights, all sorts of rights that it does not, recognize because they want to tell us what our rights are. That's not true, and as people, as what is it, taxpayer,
Yeah.
we're the financiers of this institution, of this system. So they're our employees. And, as people, we tend to forget that they work for us. And the laws that they enforce upon us derive from us, we the people, as well as the consent to be governed.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson's magic phrase, government derives its power from the consent of the governed.
Exactly. So if we consent to a bad law, then we're in effect accepting, an error in humanity. And unfortunately, a lot of incidents that happen with people of color, whether it be walking while black, driving while black, or, riding a bicycle while black, which are all circumstances that I've been in and have been harassed by police over, simply just profiling because I fit a description. I've protested every time, that this is an unlawful stop, an unlawful arrest, and I will protest all the way to the jail cell and courthouse if need be.
Yeah, there's a quote there by Dr. King that I got to bring up. One of the things that I recommend everybody, people to ask me what are good libertarian reads. People need to read Letter from the Birmingham Jail. I mean, because it is a letter for liberty, and Dr. King wrote it while he was imprisoned. But the quote that you reminded me of specifically is that Dr. King said, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. And that's you, man. You are living that principle here.
Exactly. And to me, I take that to heart, and especially when I'm trying to change the environment for myself to live in, so it's safer and I can just, live as God is expected for me to. And, but also to make sure that I'm improving the environment for my family as well as others, and being a contributing member of society, that should be our goal altogether. So I've always done this. Like I said, I've been profiled for driving in certain neighborhoods or even riding my bike or walking in certain neighborhoods. And in Orange County, where I used to live, this happened frequently in Fullerton. And I recorded each incident. I during my first campaign, ran with a whole bunch of First Amendment auditors, they're called. So these are people that basically record public officials in their public capacity. So whether it's a traffic stop, a DUI checkpoint, a police station, whatever the case may be, they go there to record public officials just to see if they're going to respect their First Amendment, which is not only freedom of speech, but freedom of press. Okay, because we as people, are able to document our public experiences.
Right. And there's been a lot of court case around that. For a long time, I was a sponsor of a group called Photography is Not a Crime. And especially like right after 9/11, there were all these people who were being arrested or detained for taking pictures of things on the grounds that, oh, it might be terrorism. So especially in New York, people would take pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge. And if the police didn't like the look of them, they had some suspicion to stop them. They'd say, oh, taking pictures of this for terrorism. We need to see what's on your camera, an illegal search. Or, there's a famous case of a woman who was driving up to upstate New York with her son's college money. She stopped by this small little airport and she thought, oh, it was really beautiful. There are apple trees in the distance. And she took a picture and she said, this is a wonderful picture. Let me see this. And the police came up and they said, what are you doing? Taking pictures of an airport here in the middle of nowhere. We think you're a terrorist. And then they searched her car. And then they found her son's college tuition money, which was $10,000. And they seized that. So all this stuff, your ability to take a picture and to record, and she eventually won her case, of course. But by then, the money that was in the police lab had been suddenly changed from 10,000 to 8,000 to 6,000.
Oh,
so there are all these cases, a lot of legal precedent that photography is not a crime.
Right.
Recording your individual presence, what's happening in your life, can never be a crime because everybody agrees you could tell somebody what happened to you, right? So what's the difference between, you having a retelling of what happened and having the actual recording? So you're in this battle for us, and I'm appreciative of it.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. It is a difficult battle, believe it or not. You wouldn't think such a thing would be so damn hard to do and be controversial, but
and the other thing about it is that, I don't want to minimize the fact that some people have some privilege. Okay. I can tell you there are times that I can show up places with a camera and I'm not going to get harassed because I'm an old white guy. Okay. Right. You as a young African-American guy, you show up and you're photographing something like that. People are going to treat you differently, and that's unfair. And so I appreciate you fighting a battle that I don't actually get an opportunity to fight for. But the way I can help fight that is by talking to people like you. So here we are. So let's keep going.
Thank you. Yes, giving me the platform to be heard by more people definitely aids that effort and, advances liberty for us all. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
But yeah, I recorded these incidents and I started a YouTube channel of not only because of this, but with me being a candidate. I ran for governor in 2014 as an independent and was just documenting my entire experience and continue to do so. So I not only recorded engagements with people at events, but, interviews that I did, debates, etc. So with my private life, these instances that happen, I chose to record them and document them and share them with others as well, especially with me being a public figure. So I had some stops that I recorded and they went viral. So my channel became very popular and I was recognized in Orange County, I'll say that, by officials. So fast forward to what happened with this case in particular. I had some traffic citations in September of 2018 that I appeared in court for. And these were two separate cases. So each time that I appeared in court to dispute the charges, they were dismissed by the judges involved. But they tried to press me for paying a civil assessment, which is basically a fine for the crime. So I protested against that, let them know I'm not going to pay you any money for, a crime I didn't commit.
And these courts, right? Is this full-fledged like legal court judges? They can make rulings and stuff like that.
No, this is actually a courtroom, but the judicial official is a commissioner. And when you enter the courtroom, you're giving all types of guidelines and information before you enter the courtroom so you can know your rights or whatever. Nobody ever reads that shit, man. I do. So I'm looking through it, and one of them actually says, a court rule says, if you do not object against the commissioner's position, you're pretty much accepting his authority in this being a lawful court. So I objected to the commissioner's position when I was up there speaking. Wow. Because he was trying to, or both times, I was being told to stop recording since I was recording this interaction with my cell phone. And I let them know, hey, I'm exercising my constitutional rights here. Freedom of press, freedom to a fair and public trial, since this is a public place. It's no different than a library or a post office or city hall even.
Right.
So I can record activity here. Not to mention, there is no court recorder presence. So in traffic court, there is no court reporter. People think there's a little stenographer sitting there taking word by word. None of that is on the record. There is no digital record, no audio recording, no transcript. It's only a minutes provided by a minutes breakdown provided by the clerk, and that's it.
So in many ways, it's almost like a secret court, right?
Exactly.
You get a little bit more information than you do from the FISA court, but not much.
Right. You said it exactly. So I recorded all of this, and again, they told me to put away my cell phone. I told them no. Had to argue constitutionality in the courtroom, in the court of law, where the judicial official, as well as the bailiff, swore to uphold the United States Constitution. So the minute that I called them out on this, about them violating their constitutional oath and said you're committing treason, that's when it became serious. During one of these cases, that's exactly what I did. I said, Judge, since you're not going to honor your oath, you're committing treason. I'm turning now to the bailiff and says, you have a duty to assist me in a citizen's arrest to arrest this judge since he's committing treason. The bailiff said, I can't arrest the judge. He said this during the trial. So I turned to the people of the audience and I said, people of the public, now I need you to assist me in the citizen's arrest. We now have two sworn officers of the law refusing to uphold their oaths. So it's up to us, we the people, to hold them accountable. I only need two of you to make this happen. And of course, nobody assisted me with that. So both times I was thrown out of the courtroom and, sent about my way pretty much.
And of course, there's no record of this happening because they don't allow you to record what's going on. And exactly. So, if you weren't taking matters into your own hand, they could disappear this case entirely.
Exactly. Or better yet, I've had it where, and I've recorded this video as well, where a judge will say, I'm going to mark you as not present. I'm here, right here in front of you.
Wow. Wow.
You're going to mark me as not present. Well, that leads to a bench warrant for a failure to appear, know?
And it's patently untrue.
Yes, exactly. Especially since I'm recording you saying this.
Wow.
Nothing happened to that judge. Nothing happened to these judges, and you're absolutely right. What happened was damn near a year later, I'm on the road with my family traveling from an event in Santa Cruz and was pulled over by Highway Patrol, another driving while black incident. So I got my cell phone, started recording it, asking him, why are you stopping me? And he basically said I was speeding, even though I was going with the flow of traffic out of the, a packed highway. Why choose me, Highway Patrolman?
Right. I mean, and for those people who haven't been to California, there's only 6 highways in all of California where you can't drive with the flow of traffic. So the preponderance of evidence is you were in traffic because you were in California.
Yes, and like you pointed out when you started the show, I looked a lot different. You know, I had shoulders with dreadlocks, and I didn't look as clean as I look now, I guess. But yeah, so we had this exchange, and he says, "Hey, give me your ID. Just let me check your ID." And I'll let you go about your way. So my wife, she's like, just give him your ID. Stop arguing with the man. I'm like, all right, we done played this game long enough. So I give him my ID, just thinking I'm okay. He comes back like, hey, I got to arrest you because you got warrants out for your arrest.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so I was taken into custody right there, spent over 12 hours in jail before I was released, and was given a promise to appear notice for contempt of court charges against me that stemmed from those two September appearances in court. Now, this happened in September 2018, and this arrest happened in November 2019. So it was over a year later, but the statute of limitations for these charges were just about to expire. The DA chose to file them right before that happened because that video where I told you where I was trying to do the citizen's arrest on the judge, that went viral. So they got wind of it and, of course, wanted to do something about it, make an example of me. So that's where these contempt of court charges came from. They definitely are scam courts. They're trying to scam me out of money right now. Taxation is theft. So
scam you out of money and establish their power.
Exactly.
Saying, oh, we have the power to do this stuff.
Right. Their superiority.
Right. So, let me circle back to one thing just so that we get the timeline straight. This warrant was the bench warrant that was issued for not that the judge filed for you not being present when you were actually present.
No, that was a separate thing.
Okay, that's a separate thing. Yeah.
So that actually happened too, but that's another long story.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
This one in particular, the judges didn't file those charges. The DA did. The district attorney did. Right. So they looked at my court appearances from September, chose to file contempt of court charges against me for not obeying the court's order to stop recording, as well as disobeying a court rule, which is the rule to not have cell phones in the courtroom. Now, rules are not laws. We have the Constitution, which is the law of the land for a reason. With this court rule, it again contradicts the Constitution, my freedom of press, freedom to a public trial, and the Ninth Amendment, which basically says I have all sorts of rights that are enumerated there in the Bill of Rights. Right. So I have the right to, of course, make sure that these guys are doing their job. And that's actually protected by California law also. So it's sad that I ended up getting these contempt of court charges because they were fraudulent, and I contested that. But after this arrest, I basically had to deal with a new criminal matter because of it. So this new court appearance was in December of 2019, where I went to court. And this time I was not openly recording using a cell phone. I just simply went up and stated my case to the judge. Now, this exchange lasted maybe an hour or so, versus the others lasted maybe 5-6 minutes, and I was out of the courtroom. But this drawn out longer and ended up turning into another contempt of court charge where I was arrested right there on the spot and taken to jail.
And to be clear, this is a real court. There's a judge and all that other stuff. Okay.
Yes. And he had me arrested for contempt of court. I spent 8 days in jail, missed my son's first Christmas, and bailed out a little before New Year's, so I can celebrate with my family. But I ended
not to mention, I just want to point out, really putting you in harm's way because COVID is running wild at this point in time, right? This is 2019 or 2020?
2019. This was
right 2019. I'm jumping the gun here.
Yeah, this was right before, thankfully. And so I got released from jail, after having bailed out, and found out after I was released that I now had a new contempt of court charge for this a court appearance that I was just arrested for. So I now had 3 court cases where I was facing 2 charges per visit. So in total, I had 6 charges against me, 6 criminal charges. Again, 3 for disobeying a court rule, and the others for disobeying a court order, which sounds the same, you would think. And it was even brought up during my trial that the charges pretty much are the same thing. But the judge said, hey, we'll let the jury decide. And that's exactly what happened recently. President's Day week, which is also the week of my anniversary with my wife. We celebrated our 9th year together.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we were stuck having to deal with this instead of, enjoying our time together. So that week I had a jury trial, lasted all week, and was found unanimously guilty for all 6 charges. And this happened in Orange County, which is predominantly white. So my jury was whitewashed. There was no person of color on the jury. And it also, in Orange County, has a population of about less than 2% of Black people. And, there's millions of people that live there. So I had a jury that did not reflect my peers. And
did you try to get a change of jurisdiction?
They said that was not possible because it happened in Orange County. So it had to be in Orange County.
The answer is yes. And they said no. Exactly,
pretty much. So the sad part about my trial is not only the situation and stupidity of the, frivolous charges and it being a waste of time and taxpayers' money, but there was obstruction of justice that happened. If you watch the videos from my trial, because they broadcasted it live on YouTube. So while I'm on trial for recording in court, they're actually
broadcasting,
put it in on YouTube. They're doing the same thing, exactly, broadcasting it on YouTube live. But during it, if you watch it, there were key pieces of evidence that the jury was told pretty much to ignore. Like at the end, when my attorney was giving her closing argument, she mentioned PC 148G, which pertains to resisting arrest, to basically say that, people that choose to record any public person, any public officer in a place where they're legally able to be, they're able to do so. And it isn't breaking the law at all. And I was exercising that right when I chose to record my September court cases. And but when she brought this up, it was objected to by the prosecutor, and the judge sustained it. So,
which is crazy because there could not be a more relevant case law,
you would think,
than the one that says specifically people are allowed to record public officials in their place of doing business.
Right. Well, no, this isn't case law. This is California law. The same. Okay. While they're prosecuting me for PC codes 166 A and 1 and 3.
Yep.
He's arguing PC 148G, which is another law. You prosecuted me for these laws. What about this law? Judge said doesn't want to hear it at all. Told the jurors, pretty much disregard what you heard. Also went to reiterate multiple times during the trial that this has nothing to do with the First Amendment or constitutional rights. This has everything to do with court rules and violating court rules. Again, rules are not laws. The Constitution supersedes any rule of the court, as well as any rule, state rule, local rule, state rule, whatever. Rules are not laws.
Specifically, the Constitution is meant to be an instruction to the government saying, you don't give people these rights. They have these rights, and you shall never interfere with them. Language is specific. Shall make no law, shall not interfere. The people have a right to be free from, et cetera, et cetera. So you're doing all this stuff that is guaranteed. And then further, there is this law in California that says specifically what you did is a right and therefore should not be violated. It's not like they're saying, oh, we're making a law that allows him to do this. They're saying this is your right to do this, and you should never be charged for it. And when your lawyer brings up the fact, hey, my client is doing something that the California law specifically says he's allowed to do, the judge says, that's not relevant to this case. Don't talk to us about things that he's allowed to do, because that hurts.
That's how you know it was jury tampering that happened during my trial, because that's intentional influence of the jurors to decide a certain way, and the way that they wanted to sway their decision was towards the court. And everything that they said, even when they broke down the jury instructions, which I also have on video. Thankfully, I had somebody record it. It's bits and pieces of the trial, because, people got to work. They got a life to live. Got to earn a living. Shit. So thankfully, one of my volunteer supporters was able to record it and send it to me. But I have a portion where the where the judge, the prosecutor, and my attorney discuss the jury instructions. This is before the jurors get in there, and they're talking about the language to be used. And the one thing about the language in court, a lot of people don't understand, is it's completely different than the everyday language that we use. When we talk about a person, that has multiple definitions in legalese. When we talk about driving, that has multiple definitions in legalese. It's its own language. It's just like any other profession, where if you were a surgeon or a doctor or an electrician or something, an engineer, you're going to be using certain terms that nobody else is able to understand unless you're in that field.
It's absolutely true. I'm a computer scientist. We have a phrase called the pumping lemma. Let me tell you, people misunderstand the pumping lemma all the time.
You probably get that look all the time when you
absolutely.
You see, so they're talking about the jury instructions using this legalese, and it was extremely prejudiced. A lot of people think that word prejudice only relates to race. It does not. You can be prejudiced against somebody for their age. You can be prejudiced against somebody for how much money they have, or
people forget what the word actually means. It means to prejudge somebody. So before you know the facts, if you prejudge them, you are prejudiced.
Yeah, exactly. I saw somebody, one of your
one of the comments in here.
Scott says prejudice when I was talking about the Libertarian Party endorsement. Yeah. Check the record, Scott. You'll see for yourself. But anyways, there is some prejudice happening in our courtrooms, and even when my jury was selected, okay, I'll tell you this a little bit. Sure. One of the jurors was asked, or all of the jurors are asked, do you think this person, or do you think you'll be able to look at this person as being innocent before proven guilty, because they ask these lists of questions, to kind of vet out the jurors. But the first thing that they want them to know is the person that you see before you is innocent, 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 innocent. Before proven guilty, you're here to hear the facts of the matter. And if that makes you think he's guilty of committing a crime, then, you should vote accordingly.
Well, and not just think that he's guilty, right? There's a key phrase in there, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, exactly. And they tell you it's not giving them the benefit of the doubt or without a doubt, it's reasonable doubt, So they ask all of these things. And one of them that they also ask is, will you be able to, judge according to this person or on the facts, and I view this person as being guilty. And one guy, he just said, well, he's a criminal, and the judge said, what would make you think that? He's like, well, he's here, he wouldn't be here if he didn't commit a crime.
And that guy got impaneled?
No.
Okay, good.
He didn't make it, but that's the perception of people already. The majority of people, I'm pretty sure if you were to have polled everybody in there, 99% of them would have said they agree with that statement, that because you're in there, you have already committed a crime, or else you wouldn't be in there. You wouldn't have been in jail. You wouldn't be prosecuted by.
I want to inject a little thing here because I'm going to grab my close-up for this. But there's a lot of libertarians who argue that you should try to get out of jury duty. I'm here to tell you, I want you to take every opportunity you can to sit on a jury, because juries need libertarians. Guys, I'm another person who I have been arrested. I have been in jail, and it sucks. And there's going to be a point in time at which, a libertarian is going to need you to do jury service. And I think about this right now. If there had been one libertarian sitting on Nickolas's jury, he would be a free man right now.
Right. Because all I needed was one juror to say, you know what, I don't think he's guilty. Then it would have been a hung jury, and we would have had a mistrial, and the DA would have had to prosecute me again. So you're absolutely right. I would promote for any person that's promoting of libertarianism or even freedom in general or anti-establishment, get involved with the system. That way you can help change it. You can't just be on the sidelines objecting against it. You got to do something about it.
Well, and there's one more famous case of jury nullification. For people who don't know, at one point in time, the United States law of the land was what was called the Fugitive Slave Act. And it said that if a slave ran away and got to the North, they could be tried in court for violating the Fugitive Slave Act.
Right.
And if they were found guilty, they had to be returned back to the South, back to their slavery. Massachusetts juries were famous for freeing everybody. Jury nullification across the board, sometimes unanimous, saying, no, he's not guilty. And the prosecutor would say, wait, he's a slave. He admitted that he escaped. Not guilty.
Right.
Because it's important. An unjust law. We go back to Dr. King's quote. There's a moral obligation to disobey an unjust law.
Yes.
All right, I'm jumping ahead of there. Go ahead. Keep going, Nick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right on. Spot on. A lot of people are completely unaware of jury nullification. And of course, that isn't something that jurors are informed of when they go to serve on a jury. The prosecutor doesn't inform them of that they have that power, and nor does the judge, because they want to retain that for themselves. So we have a power struggle also happening in the courts between we, the people, and our officials that are supposed to uphold the law. So pretty much this trial now, with me being found guilty, each contempt charge, it's a misdemeanor, but so the maximum should be 6 years, but with discretion of the prosecutor and judge, they can extend that to a year. So the maximum penalty per charge is a year. So I'm looking at a possibility of 6 years.
That's insane.
Exactly, especially over a victimless, crime. It's a non-violent crime, and at a time when you have a pandemic happening, and you would want to keep families together. I have a wife and a small son. He's 18 months, and California is releasing violent offenders. You got killers and rapists being released from prison right now, but those empty beds in jails, they're trying to fill with people like me. And I'm also running for governor of California. I'm a declared candidate running for governor, and we're recalling our governor. So pretty soon here in the state of California, we'll be having a recall election, and I need to be participating in that. So this would seriously derail my campaign, as well as, of course, me being a part of my family.
So how do you fight this now? What's the next step for you in fighting?
Well, the only thing that we can do is raise hell. I mean, my sentencing date is Friday, March 12th, so I'll be holding a protest
There's
outside.
no appeal process?
There is an appeal process. That's part of it too, you know,
Okay.
and that's why I raise hell, man.
Okay. Well, that's what I mean, because I'm ready to contribute to the appeal process right now.
Thank you
So
so much.
tell me how I do that.
Yes, I am planning to fight this through the judicial system as well. So I am planning to file an appeal and take this as high as to the Supreme Court if need be.
Yep.
Can become case law to protect others in the same situation.
Which would be
But
awesome.
if you, my wife right now, she actually created a GoFundMe to generate funds to cover, legal representation. So I have a GoFundMe, gofundme.com/Free Wildstar. So if you go to Free Wildstar on GoFundMe, you'll find me. Or you can check out my website, governorwildstar.com/Free Wildstar. On my website, I have an entire breakdown of the situation, chronologically, as well as have some action items for those people that want to get involved in this protest. So you can, of course, donate to help give me that legal representation, or you can join me in the rally. Like I said, Friday, March 12th, be outside, 8 a.m., Santa Ana Courthouse. I'll be there passing out pocket constitutions and jury nullification information, etc. So be there to make some noise with me. If you can't be there, spread the word, let others know about what's going on with me using the hashtag Free Wildstar. You can also write the judge and the district attorney, Angela McCardle. She's the chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles. She actually coordinated that for me. So if you want to get involved in that effort, just again, check out the Free Wildstar tab on my website, governorwildstar.com. You're muted. You're muted, Fishman.
Thank you. Normally when people do that, I say take a drink, but you already were doing that, so you're ahead of the game. What's the timeline that we're looking at now? So do you know, you said you have your sentencing date coming up, but if you're filing an appeal, you still get to stay out, right? You don't have to go to jail if you've got an appeal on file.
We hope so. Remember, everything is judges and prosecutors' discretion. So if the judge, my attorney, she's going to make a motion to, of course, let me stay pending appeal. So that means I can stay out of jail on bail, since I've had to pay bail and am still considered, a bail, being on a bail bond. That, if I were to do anything, there would be a bounty hunter after me. So she wants to keep me out of jail, just like I do. Yeah, there we go, right there. Thank you. Yep. And then at the top is the Free Wildstar tab. You should see it, the first one.
Free Wildstar right there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I got advertisements and all.
Nothing wrong with that, brother. You need money. And I mean, what part of what we want to do is we want to encourage people to give money right now, because as we talked about at the beginning of the show, Wildstar isn't just standing up for us, isn't just standing up for himself here. He's standing up for everybody who believes in the basic idea that your ability to record what happens to you is protected by the First Amendment.
Exactly.
And there's plenty of cases that have been out there that have proven that. So people need to really, I mean, this is something, we help out libertarians all the time, but I want to go directly to the GoFundMe page as well. So here we are, $1,000 right now.
Oh my God. Wow. That is mind-blowing. Thank you. Incredibly.
Well, it's good. And that's not all me. I got to tell the truth. I'm only in for 25.
Hey, whatever. That's a generous donation nonetheless.
we want everybody to get in on this, and we're hoping that this show right now. And so, I'm going to push it out there right now. Everybody, again, thanks very much to Kay Prather, who said that she's sharing it. Guys, this is a really important broadcast, so please share it out as widely as you possibly can. And then this link on the bottom, gofundme.com/Free Wildstar.
Yeah.
Share that out, because we can get this to $15,000. And the thing is, $15,000 is going to make a real difference. Am I saying that it's right that money makes a difference in terms of justice? I'm not saying that, but it is the truth right now. Money makes an important difference. And so you guys can get involved. One of the situations where you are lucky enough to have somebody go out and fight for you and take the blow for you, that's happened. Wildstar has done that for us. And so please, people, right now, GoFundMe.com/free Wildstar.
Yeah.
I'm getting a private message right now. It doesn't mean you get Wildstar for free. That's not what it means is that we're trying to keep him out of jail. I appreciate the joke, John. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my wife probably have to argue against that.
Exactly. Although we should point out that you are a performer. Is there an album out?
Yes, one of my last albums that I released was during my 2018 campaign. So I'm a raptivist, for those who don't know, which is a rapper slash activist.
Yep.
And I basically use my music to just inform everybody about what's going on with our political environment, and social issues. So I'm more of a conscious rapper, and was before I got involved with politics. And, once I learned all of this stuff, I just had to write more music about that.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. We got 10 minutes left, and, I have a little station identification. You're watching the Liberty Lunch Power Hour. Our special guest is Nickolas Wildstar, who is unfortunately on the cusp of being sentenced to 6 years in jail for a crime that I think every libertarian would say, well, that's not a crime. That guy shouldn't be going to jail. So we need to fight it. People need to go to GoFundMe.com/free Wildstar to make a difference. Let me come back to what you were talking about, how you were a raptivist. What was the moment that you said, there's a home for me in the Libertarian Party?
That's actually a good question. It would have had to have been during John McAfee's campaign. Believe it or not, he's the one that made me actually become a Libertarian Party member. I consider myself a libertarian and a liberty movement, activist, part of that liberty movement, since I was involved in the Occupy movement as an anonymous protester, during the Occupy Wall Street protests. So I learned about Dr. Ron Paul then, because a lot of the protesters were talking about in the Fed. And I'm like, what's the Fed? What's the so I learned about it, and I'm like, oh, hell no. You mean to tell me we can't counterfeit money, but it's the company actually doing that and charging us for the counterfeit money?
Have you ever seen there's an old Eddie Murphy sketch on Saturday Night Live where he says, what people are really like what white people are really like when nobody's watching. And he disguises himself. He gets makeup artists from Hollywood to put him in complete white face.
Before, yeah.
Exactly. Hello, Johnson. How's it going?
Yeah.
And so he films himself going into a bank, applying for a loan as African-American. Of course, he's denied. But then he goes in, made up in white makeup and everything. And the guy's like, what are you doing? You don't have to fill out a form. Here's the money. Just take it. You don't have to pay it back. And that's what the Fed is. That's what the Fed is that, so they went to this thing where, to save the country, they made these zero interest loans, right? So essentially they gave money to companies at 0%. The companies then bought their stock back, raising the price of the stock. They paid back the loan, and then they sold the stock and made money off of it. It's insane. And so that's a good way to come to libertarianism is, talking about all this crazy stuff that's going on and how, to this day, the same thing's happening, right? Because we are the government's getting ready to cut, $2,600? I don't know. No, $1,200 checks.
I know.
To everybody. which is crazy because the whole stimulus bill is like $6 trillion, and only this really small part is coming to us, and the rest is going to people who are the friends of government. So,
well, the one thing about that stimulus bill is we also have our own happening here in California. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, just signed a damn near $8 trillion stimulus package, which is to send out $600 checks to everybody. Now, $600 in California is laughable. Okay, let me just tell all of you people out there: if you think
$600 is a night out,
in California, that's a grocery bill. Okay, for a month, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Is that money is going to go up in smoke immediately because the cost of living is extremely high out here in California. You know, and a lot of people have back pay for utilities and to the tunes of thousands of dollars. You know, they're barely holding on to the income that they do have. If they are working right now, you know, then it's limited, a limited amount of hours and all of that. And of course, you have millions of people that are out of work due to this pandemic and them being told that their jobs aren't essential. And when they go to file for unemployment, the EDD is backed up and they aren't able to file a valid claim. And even those that do have valid claims are still waiting to receive aid. So it's all that we have a waste of money happening too. And, you know.
And to be clear, California has a progressive graduated state income tax. So yes, at the top level, and you know, let's be clear, the top level is $600,000 or more, but the top level, it's 12.3% income tax, which is, you know, I mean, we should be honest that there's a lot of people in, you know, the LA area who are making more than $600,000, but 12.3%, how can that be one person's share of, anyway. So yeah, the California relief package is only going to build up more debt that ends up getting paid mostly by the people who pay most of the taxes in California, which are the middle class.
And that's what I've been telling people. That's how I get people over to Libertarian, you know, is talking about the money. And with this package in particular, you know, they, as good as it sounds, once I let them know, you know, you're going to be footing the bill for that. It's coming out of taxpayers' pockets. Although we may not be paying for it now, we're going to pay for it later on down the line. This is also what I tell a lot of supporters of reparations as well, is because it works the same way. So instead of us paying the money, why not just cut taxes and let us keep our own damn money? And that's what I'm going to do as governor. Cut that income tax that you're talking about. Cut the property tax, the sales tax, every damn tax, so we can keep our money and keep it out of government's pockets.
So I gotta, you know, I don't want to. We have a relatively hard out in 2 minutes, but you mentioned reparations. I have to talk about. Have you seen the plan that Larry Sharpe released? Because it's amazing. The essence of it is, if any company that is more than 50% owned by descendant of African slaves doesn't have to pay, or they pay very little corporate income tax. So we're not giving any money to anybody. So nobody's paying reparations per se, but the government is saying, you know what? Build a business, make generational wealth, the things that will actually make a huge difference. And we're not going to tax you on doing that because we want it to be something that makes a difference in everybody's lives. Exactly. I haven't had time to think about it at all, but I think it's one of the most unique arguments I've heard about the idea of reparations in a long time.
Well, I'd like to take a harder stance to actually make sure that, you know, the American descendants of slavery actually receive some compensation for their suffering. And what I'm pushing for is restitutions. And that's actually charging those businesses that have been discovered to have caused, you know, the pain and suffering of the descendants of slavery here in America. And whether it be, you know, Brooks Brothers or DuPont or the American government, we should sue them them directly to pay those people directly instead of it coming out of taxpayers' pockets.
People do need to understand the basic economic argument. Where you are in the reparations argument is one thing, but people need to understand that American wealth was built on the back of slavery, whether it was North or South. Northern companies, like you mentioned, DuPont and Brooks Brothers, benefited from having cheap cotton, cheap fabric made in the South that was made by slave labor. So there's no business that you can point to in American history, certainly prior to 1870, that didn't benefit from slave labor in the South. All right, let's get back to the most important thing. You got a sentencing deadline coming up, and we need to raise some money. So we're talking about the GoFundMe page, gofundme.com/freewildstar. I got to share this.
Yes, please.
Because we have raised $100 since we put the link.
Yay!
You guys are doing it. We appreciate it. Here we are. We're up to 1,100 now.
All right.
We were at 1,000 a little while ago. So please keep it up. Let's do what we can. Nickolas Wildstar, thank you so much for being on the Liberty Lunch Power Hour. And we are all going to be praying, sending goodwill, stuff like that justice gets done and you get to keep on fighting for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It would be an honor. I appreciate you for having me, Fishman.
You bet. Talk to you soon.